We are staying with our event partner Gore-Tex, but this time featuring La Sportiva. And we are going to take a look behind the technology with our product specialists. From Gore, I may welcome account marketing specialist Kevin Hausfeld and innovation leader with global strategic accounts Kirk Christensen. And from La Sportiva, we have 6 times world champion in mountain running and 2 times Olympian Jonathan Wyatt. Hi guys, it's great to have you here. Well, what can I say? The studio is all yours.
Great, thank you so much. Awesome. Welcome everybody. So thank you for joining us for Gore-Tex Invisible Fit Behind the Technology. We're really excited to bring this opportunity for you all today to learn more about Gore-Tex's one of our most exciting new technologies. My name's Kevin Hausfeld. I will be your host today, and I've been on the marketing team at Gore-Tex for about 6 years, and before that I worked in a running specialty shop. I spent a lot of time in the active outdoor industry, and always excited to geek out on shoes with folks from brands. So real quick, a little bit more about myself. I'm a lifelong runner and hiker. No Olympics for me, though. I currently just kind of run for fun, but I have competed in races all the way from 100-meter dash and track and field up to marathons and one ultra marathon a number of years ago. And my favorite outdoor activity is currently trail running. Where I live in Michigan in northern USA, there's some great trails I can use year-round, and whether they're dry in the summertime or whether they're covered in snow like they are now. So real quick, our conversation today will go for about 30 minutes, and like already said, we have 2 great guests here today. We have Kirk from Gore-Tex and Jonathan from La Sportiva. And so, Kirk, I'd love for you to take a few minutes here. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how'd you become a product specialist at Gore-Tex?
Great. Thanks, Kevin. So again, hi, everyone. My name is Kirk Christensen with Gore-Tex. I've been a product specialist for quite some time right now, working in the footwear space. It's an exciting position, I think, because working with the market, working with athletes and consumers, and understanding their needs, and how Gore-Tex can help support them pursue their activities outdoors. It's a fun role working with retail, working with R&D, with leadership, with sales. So it definitely keeps me busy, and it's a great challenge. And at the end of the day, it just energizes me and inspires me to keep people around the world outdoors enjoying their passion. And speaking of passion, different things that keep me energized. I think the last year has been challenging for all of us, obviously. But one thing I really rediscovered, I'd say, is hiking. And given that, we're somewhat local based now, I tend to drive around the country and just find different places to hike and just get outside and just reflect on things. And so try to find some positives in what's been a really challenging time right now. Beyond that, when my body allows me, because I'm getting up in the years now, is trail running and road running. Still find that to be a great release and just, again, another time to reflect.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kirk. Jonathan, kick it off. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you become a product specialist?
Sure. Look, I grew up in New Zealand. I'm a New Zealander, and I would say I've been a runner for more than two-thirds of my life now, and it's really just such a big part of me. First, doing a lot of racing, traveling all over the world, and I've really been able to explore and enjoy so many different parts of and styles of running, from road running, like marathon running, track and field. And then actually later on was when I discovered mountain and trail running. And once I really got into more of the outdoors, I was hooked because I always used to really love cross-country running growing up as a child, and running over the fields through past the sheep and the cows, and running up and down steep hills and through muddy fields and streams. So trail running is really just bringing me back to my cross country running roots. And look, over the years, I've been able to evolve my career. First, obviously, doing so much racing myself as a semi-professional athlete. But I also had time to study architecture and take a lot of interest in design and architecture still. And so now that I'm able to work for La Sportiva, I'm actually now able to combine my two big passions for design and products, and also keep up my running in the field and do a lot of testing for La Sportiva. So we're living here in the Dolomites in the northern Italian mountains, and so it's really an ideal place for going out and testing the next generation of running shoes.
That's awesome. Thanks you, Jonathan. Let's start digging into tech. This is great. Well, Kirk, we have you here. Let's learn a little bit more about Gore-Tex Invisible Fit. We know it's been in market for a couple seasons now, but let's dive into the tech. I'm sure some folks really want to learn more about it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, first and foremost, it's Gore-Tex. And so it's a Gore-Tex technology, but being Gore-Tex, the whole point is to protect the athlete, protect the consumer, keep you dry, keep you comfortable, provide breathability so your feet don't overheat, etc. And so you start with that. And we're known for that, obviously, and we've created the trust and support in the community. But as we know, the heritage of Gore-Tex is outdoor. And we've established a great market, a great support, great following there. But as we've extended more into the athletic space, as Jonathan mentioned, into the trail running space, even the road running space, and even I'd say as athletics have become merged more into outdoor, we recognize that we needed to think a little bit differently, think more like an athlete, think like a runner, and take a look at how is Gore-Tex integrated or partnered into the shoe, and are there other ways we could think about it where we could really highlight the more important features, I'd say, for an athlete, as opposed to maybe your classic alpining or extreme mountaineering or things like that. And so the idea was let's take a step back, go back to the drawing board and think about, is there new innovative ways to integrate? And then we came up with what we call Invisible Fit. And the reason we call that Invisible Fit is allowing Gore-Tex to be there in the background when you need it. And so in essence, it's invisible to you as a consumer, except when you need it. And so if you run through wet grass, if you step in a puddle, let's say the snow's melting on the ground in the springtime, or let's say even later on in the spring where suddenly a storm rolls in. And we know in the mountains that can happen at any point, or even anywhere else. And at that point, you have Gore-Tex on you, and it can keep your feet dry, and you can keep focusing on your passion. Now, the technology itself is what we do is we bond the Gore-Tex solution to the upper itself. So now we're actually part of the shoe. And so the benefits of that are numerous, actually. So by being bonded to the upper, what you have now is a full toe box. And so we're thinking about the actual shape of the shoe, the room inside the shoe for the foot, so you can flex properly, etc. We now can integrate a drop liner in, and so you can have the proper amount of cushioning. It's a seamless feel for the ankle and the heel. There's no stitch lines, create any irritation. We've also worked on how we incorporate our waterproof standards, so you have a nice gusset area that doesn't, again, create any interference to your instep. And so it's really about how to make this comfortable and feel like a normal running shoe. And so it's really the idea of, it's not a Gore-Tex shoe that can be used for running. It's a running shoe that happens to have Gore-Tex for protection. It's the best of both worlds. In this case, you have the fit and performance that you would expect from La Sportiva, but with the durable protection that Gore-Tex provides. In addition to that, again, thinking about the athlete, minimizing the weight of the materials that we add here. And so it's we're talking about grams, certain maybe 17 grams, maybe 16 grams of weight add in a typical shoe, so that it's a minimal weight gain. We're talking about as well improved breathability. And so from a comfort perspective, again, high aerobic athletic activities, you want to allow as much of that excess heat and sweat to escape. And so that, again, you can continue to focus on your activity. At the same time, you recognize you will be in wet conditions. And so we want to reduce any water pickup. So that way you reduce, again, the weight gain of the shoe as you're doing your activity. But at times you may actually get the shoe wet on the inside or the outside. And so we've also significantly improved the dry out time so that you can get these shoes back on your feet for the next day and continue your passion. So again, it starts with the protection of Gore-Tex. It starts with the comfort provided by Gore-Tex, but now we've enhanced it to really focus on the athlete and what matters to them. And it's, as Kevin mentioned, we introduced this just about two and a half years ago. Really exciting. We see a quick adoption of this. Again, in mostly in the athletic space, a little bit in lifestyle as well. But really, it's thinking about the consumer, and it's evolving with the consumer, evolving with the athlete, and meeting their needs.
That's great. Thanks so much, Kirk. Really exciting stuff. Now, Jonathan, I'd love to hear a little bit more. What's going on? What's your experience been like working with Invisible Fit specific to La Sportiva? And tell us about how the design process goes on your end.
Yeah, look, really the technology for a running shoe is a bit of a game changer, I think, because the name really sums it up, because it's really interesting that you really don't notice that you're running in a Gore-Tex shoe, because look, I've been running for really a long time, and I've run in many Gore-Tex shoes in the past, and there's always been a certain amount of rigidity in the shoe, so you always notice that you're running in a Gore-Tex shoe. And look, we have in our range as well. We have running shoes that use the multi-layer Gore-Tex membrane as well. And where that really performs extremely well is in really wintry, snowy conditions. But here with Invisible Fit, we can now have a shoe which really performs all year round in any kind of wet conditions. So really for us, we're really looking at the products which are really going to work incredibly well with this technology. So we're really excited this season to introduce a brand new shoe called the Bushido GTX. Actually, it's not a brand new shoe because the Bushido exists already, but we really thought this was a great shoe to be able to include the Invisible Fit technology. So we really still have a very good runnable shoe, which really our end goal is to really make the shoe feel like the non-Gore-Tex version of the shoe. So again, you really don't feel like you're running in a Gore-Tex shoe until, of course, you really need it in those wet conditions.
Awesome. That's great, Jonathan. I know I remember you showing us you had some cool uppers that kind of showed how the tech was built in on the inside of the shoe. Is that something that you have that you can show us today? If not, I have one myself I could grab real quick.
Absolutely. So the Bushido GTX, this is the upper of the shoe, and look, you can see just how flexible and the weight, you can't feel that, of course, but you can see even a little bit just how thin this material is. So the Gore-Tex material is bonded directly to the upper, as Kirk was saying, and you really don't feel any extra rigidity in the shoe at all. It's quite amazing.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing. It's great to really kind of see inside when you can, especially when the technology really is invisible. Just as you're looking at the shoe on the shelf, you usually can't see it. So thanks for sharing that with us. So as we've shared so far, the importance of Gore-Tex is nothing without our brand partners. So thank you again for being here, for Jonathan, because you're really bringing the technology to life in a real product. Now, something that's always very interesting to me is the product testing side of it. Being Gore-Tex myself, I know we take testing extremely seriously, and Jonathan, you've talked about how you do product testing on your end. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. Kirk, can you share a little bit more about how testing goes into Gore-Tex products for footwear?
Absolutely, and I think Kevin, you already highlighted part of it, but let's expand that a bit further. And I think it starts with the lab, and as the Gore-Tex brand, as you mentioned, Kevin, we take it very seriously, and we think about durability. We think about waterproofness, and being waterproof can be a variety of different things. We will even look at the threads, and are the threads moving water or wicking water up to the top of the shoe? We want to prevent that. We're looking at the overall construction and making sure that it's as breathable as it can be. And so we'll even partner with La Sportiva or other brands around material selection if needed. As much as possible, we want to follow them on their design and what they want to do, and we're here to support. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the shoe is meeting expectations of the consumer from durable, waterproof, and breathable. And so we have a series of tests that we'll put these shoes through to make sure that they're meeting the specifications, and we can make any adjustments if necessary. Again, and just have that consistency. But in addition to the lab, at the end, you still have to put the shoes on athletes and test them. And we do our own sets of user trials where we'll evaluate durability and use. And after so many kilometers run, we'll take a look at the shoes. Many cases, we'll start to cut them up and look at them at a microscopic level and understanding how the materials are integrating. And are there any issues at all, anything changing inside that shoe that we should be aware of and address? So it's really looking at both. But look at the lab with standardized testing, as well as the consumer, the athlete themselves, and getting their feedback and looking how that shoe is performing for them over time. And so we'll track them over months of use. And then in addition, I think Jonathan mentioned this as well, it's beyond the durability, beyond the waterproof, it's also the comfort itself. And so with Invisible Fit, we did a series of tests with athletes to make sure that the comfort, the fit comfort, was not being compromised. And so at the end of it all, you have the best of both worlds. You have the fit and comfort and performance you would expect from a La Sportiva style with the durable, waterproof, and breathability that you would expect from a brand like Gore-Tex.
Awesome, thanks, Kirk. And I've been fortunate enough to step in the Gore-Tex footwear lab a number of times over the years, and it's amazing. It's always rolling. We have these great tests where we submerge shoes in water and flex them tens to hundreds of thousands of times over many hours. We have different technologies that go off of the where we inflate a Gore-Tex bootie and dip it in water to make sure that there's no defect. So lots of really cool different things. And we have some great information on Gore-Tex.com for anyone who wants to check it out. We have some videos of all the different tests that our products in footwear and all of the other different products out there with Gore-Tex go through before they go to market. But Jonathan, you talked a lot about product testing that you do kind of at the headquarters. I'd love to hear a little bit more about everything that goes in on the La Sportiva side when you're testing products throughout the design process.
Yeah, sure. Look, those miles that you put out on the field are really important for us. It's something we put a lot of value on, and of course, being based here in the Dolomites makes things a lot easier because we can literally just walk out the door of the factory, and within 5 minutes we're running on either wet or slippery terrain or rocky technical terrain or through forest trails. So we're really fortunate in that area, and that's something that I do myself as well. Is any prototype or any sample that comes in, I'll put it on my feet, and luckily I have the right sample size for doing that, and I get a chance to go out for a run, which is fantastic. But of course, we also really utilize two groups of people that I utilize for the testing that I organize. One of them are our elite athlete team members, and that's super important because these are runners that are really going to the extremes and really can push the shoes a lot harder than I can now because I'm not running quite as fast as I used to. And we have a really strong team at La Sportiva here, and we have team members that do really long distance ultra trail races. We have team members that do the most technical and extreme difficult sky races. And of course, we have team members that do the very short races as well. For example, the vertical races, which might only last for 30 minutes, but you run up more than 1,000 meters of elevation in that time. So we have runners that really specialize in all the different disciplines that are possible to do. So that's super important to have that feedback for us that goes into the shoes. And then, of course, there's another group which let's just call the hobby runners or the normal people. So it's also very important to have a very wide range or a very wide group of types of runners who run in different ways. It's important to also put the shoes on slower paced runners that run in a different way. Maybe they're more landing on the heel rather than the forefoot. And of course, different widths of foot as well. So we want to make our shoes that are really comfortable for a wide range of consumers. So we really spend a lot of time on the testing, especially the practical side. And it's really good that we also have confidence in our partners as well, and having the support and knowing that the materials and the construction has gone through a very rigorous testing process on our partner side as well. So, I think it's a good combination.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. All this talk about product testing on both sides, it's great to hear the extent of testing that goes through on the Gore-Tex side and the Sportiva side. And what really jumps out to me from that is that how much time goes into making sure these products are durable. And that is something that Gore-Tex has been really pushing the last few years, is the importance of investing in a durable product. When you invest in a durable product that's going to last longer, that's better for the environment in the long run, because there's going to be less products going into the landfill. So when you invest in a durable product, when brands like Sportiva invest in making durable products, they're going to last a long time. That's overall just going to be better for everyone, and better for the athlete, better for the consumer. And one point I'd like to bring up that I think is really interesting is the importance of wash and care. So at Gore-Tex, when we talk about wash and care, usually people are thinking about your jackets. Take good care of your Gore-Tex jacket. You need to wash it and dry it regularly. I like to bring that up for footwear as well, because once again, if you take good care of your shoes, if you're not letting just mud build up on them, all that grit can eventually abrade the upper of the shoe. You want to take good care of your products. You want to clean them up. Check the care instructions from La Sportiva's website or whichever brand you purchased the product from, and clean them up. If water stops beating up on the upper of the shoe, it may be time to add more water repellency material to the upper of the shoe. And you'll be happier with the product for longer, and the product will eventually last longer. So wash and care for footwear is definitely important. And at Gore-Tex.com, once again, we recently created some really good how-to content in video and guidelines of how to take care of Gore-Tex products to make sure that they're lasting as long as possible. So definitely check that out if you're interested to learn more. All right, so we've talked a lot of product tech so far. I'd love to pick some knowledge out of your guys' brains to kind of give folks some ideas here on how to stay comfortable. So due to the challenging times over the past year, we know a lot of gyms are closed. It's a lot harder for people to be active. There's a lot of new athletes and new runners, new walkers, new hikers, people out there getting outside more or getting outside for the first time. So I know, especially now, we're in winter, and a lot of times people would take their activities indoors if they could. So more people are forced, if they want to be active, to get outside, no matter what the weather is. I'd love to hear some tips and tricks from you both on what you like to do to stay comfortable when you're being active outdoors in the bad weather. Kirk, I'd love for you to kick it off.
Sure. Thanks, Kev. Yeah, and being a footwear Gore-Tex guy, I think I'll start there. And to me, we've talked about durability. Let's talk about another word, versatility. And as Kevin mentioned, when you go outside, you can have challenging conditions, and it's not just from the sky, it can also be from the ground. And it could be wet grass, it could be against snow, it could be melting snow, it could be puddles, all sorts of different conditions. Or it could be a nice day, a nice dry day. The whole idea is having gear that can adapt to what's happening around you, and you don't have to keep switching out, at least from a footwear side. And so for me, it's about the versatility. So it's your running shoes. And if it's a nice day, just keep running. If it's a more challenging day and the ground is wet, keep running, because Gore-Tex will keep you there. If it's a bit of a colder day, there are some windproof benefits to Gore-Tex as well. And so it can prevent some of that more extreme wind chill from, again, interfering with your activity or creating a distraction. And at the end of it all is we want you to focus on your run, focus on your activity, and don't focus on the weather. And so it's just, this is your go-to shoe. And regardless of what's going on, and if the weather changes along the way, you just keep going.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirk. Jonathan, from your side, what's your favorite tips to stay comfortable in the nasty weather?
So when I'm talking to runners that I coach, or I'm giving advice, especially about winter running, I will mostly talk about layering, and because when you start running, you start cold, and then you heat up as you exercise, and your body gets warm, and so it's important that your body is able to breathe, and so often I'll say, take 2 or 3 layers of clothing when you're out running on your top level, because then as you get warmer, you can then take off your jacket, maybe take off the mid layer as you're going to the top of the hill, and then when you get to the top of the hill, yeah, for sure it's going to be cold as you start to descend, and your body doesn't generate as much heat. Now, that's not quite so easy when it comes to running shoes, is it, to layer up your running shoes? In this case, I think it's far more important that you have a shoe which is very much, as Kirk says, is very versatile. So what you really want is a shoe which really breathes really well as being a shoe which is going to keep out the water and keep you dry. So having the invisible fit technology is a real bonus for us, because look, we know the invisible fit maybe isn't quite as warm as a multi-layered Gore-Tex system, but what it does give you, it gives you a much greater breathability. So your foot might be a little bit colder at the start of the run, but as you run, you start to warm up. And your feet warm up, which is normal, but of course, giving the added breathability means your foot stays incredibly comfortable. And of course, when you do run through that river and or that small stream, or through that pond, which is much more fun than running around it, your feet stay dry and comfortable. So that's that's where it's at.
That's great, Jonathan. It never gets old just being able to run through a puddle and have perfectly comfortable feet. I've been running in Gore-Tex shoes for so many years, and that never gets old. I have one quick tip for myself too, to kind of complete the system there that you guys are both sharing, is that always don't forget to get a good pair of running socks, whether they're wool or a light synthetic. What I usually end up doing is just using a really thin synthetic sock year round, and using the right type of sock that's going to help with breathability. So that's going to help the whole system work together to keep your foot comfortable. Just always important. Don't skimp on the socks. If you wear a cotton sock, that's just going to soak up and hold moisture that can lead to blisters and uncomfortable. So wherever you buy your running shoes, wherever you buy your Sportiva running shoes, they're going to have some good quality socks there. So make sure you kind of complete the system, and that'll help keep you comfortable no matter what the weather is outside. Cool. Well, this has been great. Get out to our last topic. We are almost done, guys. So I'd love to hear what is next for your brand. So what's coming up? What's new? Now, Kirk, we talked a lot about invisible fit and trail running shoes today. You also mentioned that is in some road shoes. What's next? What's coming up for Invisible Fit?
There's actually a lot going on, and I think again it starts with where our great brand partners like La Sportiva are going, and listening to them and understanding what we need to do to support them. It's also looking at the market and understanding where the market is going. And what's interesting is you're seeing, again, this merging of outdoor elements with athletic elements and even sometimes lifestyle elements to it. Again, the magic word of versatility. And so as we continue to expand the technology and the innovation, it's understanding how we can integrate with these different types of uses and different types of footwear styles. And so for sure, we are seeing an expansion into some new areas in the outdoor space and the lifestyle space. And again, but really focusing on great fit, lightweight, and fundamentally the durable protection of Gore-Tex. That always has to be there. And I think the other trend and the direction, which is fantastic, that we are part of is the sustainability and that movement and being more environmentally responsible, et cetera. A lot of details can be found at Gore-Tex.com explaining our vision and how we're helping to help lead the industry and move in that direction. And as I look at the technology for the future, various things from a sustainability aspect are part of that. Great example could be recycled content in our materials. And that is something that we are actively working on and will be excited to talk about in the future.
Perfect. Thanks, Kirk. And Jonathan, what can you tell us? What's new and upcoming from La Sportiva?
Yeah, look, just to kind of bookend on what Kirk was saying, that's really an important topic, is talking about sustainability, and so we've actually we've brought in experts that are now working for La Sportiva, which are working on the same topics as well, using far more recycled materials in our shoes. And also looking at areas and ways of constructing shoes which are more and more environmentally friendly. And in terms of product, having the Bushido right here next to me, this is the shoe we're launching this year in the Invisible Fit. Kirk was holding up a shoe which was introduced last season, which is our Jackal GTX. And so the Jackal is really the go-to shoe for long distance and ultra running, whereas the Bushido here is really our key product for really technical terrain, and when you really want to push yourself to the limits and really go hard on the most difficult type of running ground possible. So we're really excited to have those two shoes featuring an Invisible Fit that really gives us a shoe which is as close as possible to the feel of the non-Gore-Tex version, which I've mentioned that before, but people love the shoe as a non-Gore-Tex shoe, and now to be able to offer them a shoe with the same fit and feeling as the non-Gore-Tex version and have that extra protection, perfect for winter conditions, is a really nice addition for us.
Very good. And Jonathan, one last question as we wrap up here. Where can folks in the audience go today to learn more about La Sportiva?
Yeah, look, La Sportiva is presenting at ISPO here, and I think you just do your search for La Sportiva, and I'm sure it will come up with us. And of course, you can also find us online at lasportiva.com. So keep it simple.
Very good. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you, Kirk, for joining us. Kirk, I know it's early on your time zone, so thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So similar to Sportiva, Gore-Tex is also a partner here at ISPO, so we have a virtual booth if you'd like to learn more about Invisible Fit or other technologies as well. Gore-Tex.com is a great place to go anytime to learn more about Invisible Fit and everything else, wash and care, everything that we talked about earlier today, our sustainability efforts. And we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe, and get outside.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Kevin, Jonathan, and Kirk. I very much enjoyed your tips about what to do in nasty weather. I live in Hamburg where it rains a lot, so I remember the layering especially. We have some questions from the audience for you.
Very good.
You already touched on the number one question, but I'll ask you again. It's, can you share some insights on the sustainability perspective of Invisible Fit?
Sure, yeah. So I think, again, it starts with the sustainability efforts of Gore in general, Gore-Tex in general, and there's a lot of information there on Gore-Tex.com in terms of our strategy and how we're part of the overall sustainability effort. When it comes specifically to Invisible Fit, I think there's a couple key aspects. One actually Jonathan touched on, which is how do we minimize waste? How do we minimize the number of materials used to construct that shoe? And certainly that's something driving more efficiency in the construction, reducing material consumption, material waste, et cetera. Number two would be something to think about is just the durability or longevity of the shoe. And so as you use a running shoe to go up the mountain, and eventually over time, that shoe may no longer be the same type of shoe that you needed from a pure athletic perspective. But that it's still a good shoe. It's still a solid La Sportiva shoe. It's still a solid Gore-Tex shoe. And so you can continue to use it for other purposes. So we really believe in longevity and maximizing the use of that shoe so that you don't have to create more waste in the environment. So continue to use it. And I think the third aspect that I mentioned earlier is, again, recycled content. There's a variety of different things that we are involved with, and we can get into some of those details again on Gore-Tex.com, which we're part of. But specific with some of the technology I'm driving, again, is trying to incorporate recycled content. And can't get into the details just yet, but that's something that very soon we'll be talking about and in our future there.
Well, thank you so much. And the next question is about the Gore-Tex lab and if it's possible to take a tour.
Ooh, that's a great question. So when things are open and it's no longer COVID, we have done tours before with brand partners and with other publications and things like that. So hopefully we will be doing lab tours again in the future. There have been some really great publications that have done a deep dive into the lab. I believe Popular Mechanics has done a long deep dive into our lab. And Gore-Tex, we are actually currently working on creating a virtual tour of our lab that will be hosted on our website. So once again, keep your eye out for that, and you can really dive into it and learn a little bit more.
And where exactly is the lab?
We have, I believe we have 3 labs. There's one at our world headquarters, one in our European headquarters, and one in our AP headquarters. So there's a handful of labs. There's a lot of product to test. So.
Okay, thank you so much. Then next up, our audience would like to know, how long is a testing journey with an athlete?
When do you guys want to take that one?
Maybe I can answer that from the La Sportiva side. In terms of bringing a product to market, we're probably talking about 2 years. If we're talking about a brand new shoe from start to finish, it's going to be a minimum of 2 years. And so we'll go through there'll be a design process, and then first prototypes are typically produced, which are really rough and really testing ideas. And so we will have a smaller group of testers for that, because we don't produce very many shoes when we make those first shoes, so that we can really be more reactive and make modifications more quickly. So we will typically 4 or 5 key athletes at the most, and a lot of that is something that I do myself. So I might be doing most of the testing, and then just pass the shoe on to other people to give their feedback using the same prototype, and then we go through into the more production ready stages. We test in 2 sizes. We always test in sample sizes, which for La Sportiva is size 38 as well as size 42. And so we produce a range of shoes, a number of shoes in that size I would say when we're pretty sure that the shoe is about 90% ready. So we're well through the process at that point. and then we were able to put the shoe on a variety of people, and we would have about I would typically use about 10 to 20 people for that test, and then finally we produce shoes in a greater range of sizes where we do the absolute final modifications. But at that point, we really hope the shoe is pretty much ready to go. But yeah, you're talking around 2 years to really go from start to finish.
Oh, thank you so much. And then I've got one final quick question, which is there a repair care service provided of Gore or La Sportiva, like a laundry service for performance products?
Ooh. Jonathan, is there something like that on the Sportiva side?
Yeah, look, in terms of, I mean, exactly as you mentioned before, you know, on our website and on the product themselves are the care instructions, and it's a very, you know, it's kind of a simple thing to say that, you know, your shoe lasts longer when you wash it, and but you know, it sounds simple, but not that many people maybe think of it or do it on a regular basis, because it is exactly right. We're all trail runners. We love running in the mud, but of course, you know, the mud itself is you know, creates a friction, and over time, you know, it could make the shoe break down more quickly than it needs to. So, you know, the longevity and the durability of a shoe, and I think it's exactly as we've talked about. It's a big part of the sustainability that, you know, we just buy a shoe and we want it to last a long time, and the La Sportiva is, you know, I would say is one of the brands that's very well known for that, because maybe we don't have the lightest shoes, because the shoes are built more solidly and built to last, and it's a very good example of the Bushido. If I don't want to go too far off topic, but you know, to look at the shoe, you have a very protective toe bumper here. You have a lot of reinforcement here on the lateral side of the forefoot, and this, you know, this really helps to make the shoe last a longer time, because you have this structure in the shoe itself.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jonathan, for those great insights, those great tips. I'll definitely remember them. Take care and have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.